Um, my background is, I don't know if you heard a company called Global Sources.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so I was a general manager there for, boy, 7.5 to 8 years, working on a lot of their content, running content development for them. And I launched their supplier sourcing reports, and my business partner, Brian Hager, was also at the same company, and we left Global Sources to start this company. And so we had both a background in the internet, in sourcing, using online B2B. That's what we know, and we just looked and realized that there's a new way to approach this. Just putting up a directory of supplier information, given the way the internet has gone and the way social has taken over much of the internet, we realize that a new approach is needed, both in helping the buyer source and also in the pricing model for suppliers. So that's basically, I've been in China for about 10 years. Before Global Sources, I was with a startup called MeetChina.com, which was similar to an Alibaba when they were first getting off the ground. So we know the space pretty well.
Thank you. Can you talk about what is a social graph and why is it important to the supply chain?
Right. In a social graph, we look at a person's, who is in your network, right? And it's LinkedIn has really taught us the value, I think, of that. I mean, Facebook is more, fun stuff. But on the business side, often when you're sourcing or in the supply chain in any way looking for new customers, the people you talk with first are people you know. And their wider network can help you, grow your own business. And that's what we look at as the social graph is people that I know personally in, maybe doing trade and their network, and then I can go through my connections, people that I know, to get introduced to other people that may be able to help me. And, for example, as a startup company, we use LinkedIn an awful lot because it's a good way. In fact, we found each other, you and I know your business via LinkedIn, right? And I wouldn't have been able to find you otherwise. And so for sourcing or for actually trade services, you think about it, the logistics providers, the inspection agents, they're right in the middle of trade. And the way current B2B websites are working, it's mainly a supplier directory. So a buyer gets on and does sourcing looking, through the supplier directory. But where are the logistics providers? Where are the inspection, the customs, legal, all of these other trade services? And when you're looking at a social site, these guys are in the middle. So if I'm doing a search, for example, I'm a buyer and I'm doing a search on a supplier, and I'm searching for paper cups or something, a supplier that is connected to someone I know, like an inspection agent or a logistics provider, would come up higher on a search in TradeSpark than they would in a B2B, regular B2B directory site, because I can verify that supplier through my network. And the reason this helps the trade services is since these guys are in the middle, they're connected to everybody. And so it helps them grow their business because as buyers search for suppliers, they will come up as a relationship to that supplier. And that can help them in networking and to get more sales. And vice versa, suppliers can search for buyers on our site. Trade service providers are right in the middle. So I don't know if that explains it enough, but in that type of network, they have more value than they would in, a directory site where no logistics companies aren't paying the tens of thousands of dollars to get on Alibaba or Global Sources to advertise their services. That's not how those sites work.
That sounds interesting. Does your service help identifying the background of potential suppliers that you may not know anything about? Does it help with that sort of security or?
Right. The way we look at it is this. A lot of the B2B websites today verify suppliers by saying, hey, it's a gold supplier or it's a multi-star supplier. But in reality, they're not doing much in verification at all. The suppliers are paying ad fees, and the salespeople on a lot of the B2B sites go out and say, yeah, it's a company and there's a business registration and let's be done with it. That's not real verification. And so we look and we don't think the website can verify suppliers that way. We think verification should happen differently. and that is via your network. So the first thing you can do is when you do a search, and if you find a supplier is connected to someone you can immediately contact that person and go ahead and find out anything about, that supplier that, you would via a reference. And that's the way trade really works. I mean, you talk to a lot of sourcing guys on the buy side, they're talking to people they know when they're looking for a new supplier. That's the first thing they do, and we want to facilitate that. In addition, we've added ratings to our site, kind of not like a Yelp where they're public ratings, but ratings within your circle. In other words, if I happen to be connected to you, I can rate a supplier and only you would see my ratings. This works good for sourcing teams that have come on our site where the team comes on. There may be 10 people in the sourcing team. They could rate suppliers and only people within that sourcing team can see the ratings. And, that works, for example, if I'm a buying group and I've got a guy in Latin America who's searching for something, what can happen is a supplier will come up that's connected to maybe one of their colleagues in China that they didn't know about. And they can go ahead and immediately see what the colleague has written about them, the supplier assessment the colleague has uploaded. And so verification is happening, I guess, via the network, not because we called someone a good supplier. And lastly, what we do different is we let a supplier put wherever they are on the internet. In other words, instead of just having a profile, for example, on Alibaba, we're saying, hey, supplier, where are you? If you have your own website, if you have a global sources at Alibaba, if you have a Facebook site, if you're in LinkedIn, all of these other places, you put it up. And we'll let you market all of them because that provides the buyer with more details about
you. And where have you seen some success?
We're seeing a lot of success, first of all, in buyers coming onto the site. And on the buy side, we see them coming onto the site and doing a search like a regular site and then a B2B site, and then importing contacts and then filtering their network, filtering the search by the contacts. So we're seeing a lot of action on buyers going ahead and filter. On the supply side, a lot of what we're doing is we're getting a lot of suppliers that upload products. They can do it for free. And actually, the whole site is free. It follows a freemium model like LinkedIn. But once they upload products, they're sharing it in their across their network. And we found that's really valuable. The suppliers are doing an awful lot because often when they upload a product, the first people they want to see the product are their preferred customers, people they're already working with. So with us, they can upload that product and only share it if they want to their preferred customers before having it sent out all over the web. And on the supply side, there's a lot of trade show follow-up where suppliers go to a show. They may be getting a ton of business cards. A buyer came by, was looking at a product. They can go ahead and share product details and specs directly with the buyers they came across in a trade show in a click of a button. Some of the surprising things that, like a LinkedIn, we allow the buyers and suppliers to connect. That's happening a lot. We thought buyers would connect with each other less. That has been surprising. A lot of buyers are connecting with each other because they can, they know each other and they're seeing who's, on their network. I think we were surprised about that. And we're getting a lot of China suppliers connecting with each other in the supply chain, i.e. components guys connecting with finished product guys. I get that makes perfect sense. We just weren't thinking of it that way when we first started, buyer and supplier. But we're getting a lot of domestic, components connecting with finished products guys, and that's been really valuable. So the connection part has been exciting because that's new in the trade space, and there was some education that needed to be done, but I think what we're lucky enough is that we're following along the success of a LinkedIn and a Facebook in these places. So a lot of the suppliers and buyers are familiar with the social network now, and they're familiar with coming onto a dashboard, not just a search engine. And they understand that when they connect with somebody, suddenly all their feeds come to the dashboard. When someone they know rates a supplier, one of their connections rates a supplier, they can see that rating. And they understand that, and I think that's been a success for us. We thought we'd have to educate a little more on the social network, and surprisingly, that's been better than we thought.
And are you dealing mainly with China suppliers right now, or?
Well, when starting the site, the first thing that needs to be done, obviously, is on a network site is get content. And so, being based in China, my business partner Brian and I both here, We knew how to go ahead and contact the suppliers and get suppliers coming in and uploading their products. So it started with China. But every single day we're getting suppliers around the world now uploading products. A lot of, Southeast Asian, Vietnamese, and India is actually for some. Quite a bit of the European now and even U.S. suppliers starting to upload. So it's definitely expanded beyond China, which, we hoped, and, it's good to see. But still the bulk of it is China because in the network effect, a lot of the Chinese suppliers know others, and so that's making the China part spin faster than the world part. Brazil, actually, a lot of South American, a lot more on the buy side there than the supply side, but still going pretty well.
Is it challenging to integrate the different social networks from the different countries? Like China, I know there's restrictions with some of the social networks, and how do you get all the different social networks together?
Right. Well, actually, the way you use it is you have to import your own network. In other words, if you're on LinkedIn, there are ways you can go ahead and import your LinkedIn contacts. Or if you're on Sina Weibo, or if you're on QQ, Tencent's QQ, we're saying you do have to import the contacts. Most of the social networks like a Facebook or whatever, you can't they don't have an API, the software that lets you completely leverage and pull that community into your community. So we can't sit there and say, you're my connection on Facebook, therefore you're now my connection on TradeSpark. It doesn't work that way. It works where you need to import your connections from the other networks. And so that's why we had to have the reason to make that valuable. In other words, suppliers are importing so they can share products. They have a reason to do that. And the buyers are importing so they can go ahead and filter their search.
It sounds like this is a very innovative business model, and it looks like you'll have some exciting developments coming up. And how can people take a test ride of your product?
Good. Yeah, TradeSpark is free. So, our whole theory was, hey, if you can put your entire, photo album up on Facebook and share it with everybody for free, why can't you do that in trade? So we're definitely a freemium model. Suppliers and buyers both come on, fill out a simple profile, upload their products, and start working immediately. So it only takes minutes to get on the site. And then, of course, you've got to start connecting with other people in your network, and that's where you start really to see the value. So first come in for free, no problem. Start connecting, sending inquiries, sending messages, that's fine. And then VIP services are paid on our site. Revenue is tied to mainly on the supply side, where they can see who's viewed their profile, a little bit like LinkedIn. They get a slight preference in search ranking for their products if they're VIP. But the most important thing in our search is relationship. And even VIP members can't, overcome it. They need to be related to somebody or have a connection to really jump in the search results. But it's free, so come on in and give it a test drive. Especially the trade service providers. These guys are right in the middle, and their networks are really valuable to both the supplier and the buyer. And they're the guys that often appear as the shared connection on a search. And so those guys should come in, put up their profile, and import their contacts and get rolling, in minutes.
Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing your insights about your company and how it's developing.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance and the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.